Here we go. Hello, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Periscope. I'm Frank Lavinia, and I am super excited to be here. You can follow me on Twitter at Frank Digs Data. And because we have a special surprise today, we have my partner in crime. I got to slide over.
Hey, Frank.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I am very happy that it's Friday. It's been one heck of a week. Those 4-day weeks you think are going to be nice and easy? Nope. Nope. Never. It's to the point whenever I have a 3-day weekend, I kind of dread the following week because it's just like.
Well, with the weather this time, goodness,
yes.
It's been really messy out on the East Coast here, especially the Mid-Atlantic where you and I are.
Mm-hmm. And you lost power.
Yeah, we were out for about 4.5 days, but
wow.
we're blessed to have a generator, and it's not like one of those whole house generators, but it'll do a fine job keeping us nice and warm. And it did that. And let me turn my phone dinger off here so we won't get dinged there. And we did not lose power in this last one. And what was crazy, Frank, you know this, it hit us. Gosh, what, like Thursday, Friday of last week?
Something like that. It was like last weekend, yeah.
And then Thursday, Friday of this week, we just seemed, at least for the past few weeks, to be in that pattern. And just because of where the Gulf Stream meets the jet stream and how it turns, we were just, it was nice and warm, moist air coming up from the Gulf up high, and an Arctic blast laying on the ground. So we got like a half an inch of ice or so.
Wow.
They projected up to an inch this time, but it didn't get anywhere near that, at least not here. So we're very fortunate.
Yeah, I feel bad for the folks in Texas. I mean,
aren't they? I mean, you just see the stories, and they're just not used to that. They're saying it's like been 40, 50 years since they had anything like that. And we get it about every 5 or 10 years here.
Like in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. I mean, it's,
yeah,
we don't have it kind of all the time like you would in Massachusetts or in Minnesota, but
yeah,
happens often enough that, I mean, my older son was born during Snowmageddon.
Yep, I remember that.
And in the Mid-Atlantic, we kind of have a short memory. Like, it takes about 2 years of a decent winter. We'll forget like how bad it is. Like, and then everything closes down again.
It's been really mild the past few winters here too.
Yeah.
I mean, relatively speaking. So far
there was no snow at all. Where I am in Maryland, we had zero snow just outside DC for last winter at all. Like, it was just kind of like,
same here.
I don't even, for when it first started snowing this time around, I didn't even know where my shovel was because I hadn't touched it in 2 years. Like, so we have a comment, and so thanks for watching. LinkedIn user. I think I know who you are. Andy's Andy's good at researching this. So thank you for watching.
Now. Oh,
it's funny because sometimes
all sorts of noises over here. Okay, I think I'm done beeping.
It's been that kind of week, man. So I was double booked on Tuesday. Although I am excited because so I work at the MTC. Folks know that. Some folks don't. Some folks know what the MTC is. So we basically kind of do. Normally we would do in-person all-day engagements. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
Obviously now we're virtual. So because we're virtual, we can do kind of more kung fu with our schedule. So I actually scheduled a lunch break so I can attend another engagement. And the reason I really want to attend this one is this was a quantum engagement.
Nice.
And this is why I'm excited about it. And that's Maina. Hey, Maina, thanks for watching. Hope you're staying warm. You're in the Midwest. I think it gets a bit colder out by you.
Yeah.
So this engagement was when I interviewed for this job I'm in now, which was a year ago. I told the team, because I was still hopped up from MLADS 2019, which is an internal Microsoft research conference. In fact, I think I still have a laptop sticker from it. There we go.
Nice. I'm so jealous. You get to go to all the cool places and get all the cool stickers.
All the cool stickers, right? It used to be T-shirts, now it's stickers. But so I was still hyped up on quantum computing, and when they were talking, they were like looking at me like I was crazy. And fortunately, I'm used to having people look at me like I'm a little crazy. So um, they went to me, and I was like, mark my words, within a year, we're going to see somebody come to us asking about quantum computing. And they looked at me like, yeah, whatever, kind of in a supportive way, like whatever. And then lo and behold, like a week ago, somebody was like,
Nice.
they found me out internally because of the podcast, Impact Quantum podcast, and a lot of these live streams I do where I talk about quantum
Nice.
computing. And he's like, would you mind helping? Because it's out of my kind of my normal region. And I was like, sure. So I can't talk about what they're doing, but I will say it is very cool, kind of what they have in mind. It's patentable, which is why I'm extra cautious about it. But so yeah, so I was talking about data, and then for like a half-hour window, I did like a quantum talk, and then back to data. So
Very cool, Frank.
It was cool, and it's fascinating to see kind of customers finally catch on to not just Azure Quantum, but quantum computing in kind of the real world.
Yeah.
And how real it actually is, and their use case is pretty cool. If they crack that, it's going to be transformative for their business.
Very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been that kind of week. So as excited as I am to do these, they take a lot of kind of like mental energy, and particularly when you're doing presenting on camera, you've done in-person teaching and virtual teaching, it takes a lot out of you. Like it does. It's not like there's a song by Bob Seger, and I think Metallica covered it many years later. It was called "Turn the Page."
Yep.
And there's a line in there about like, you leave every ounce of energy on the stage. And I thought, not quite exactly what we do, because there's definitely, a difference between kind of the geek life and the rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a certain kind of core of it. So I was actually, I found that interesting. So
it's interesting. You bring that up because Christy was talking. I delivered a day of training yesterday and online. And then last week, I did 4 days of training online. And it's, what, and I was talking to her about it this morning, talking to her about how wiped out I was yesterday afternoon. I said, but this has been going on for years. I can remember back to doing pre-conferences at SQL Saturdays and, and conferences. And every single time, Frank, when I'm done, I go back to the room, or if I'm here doing it, I zonk out, man. I take a nap for maybe an hour or two, because it's exactly that, man. I leave it all in the field. And that's I think that's what we want to do. And yeah, if you're online presenting, especially for a day, it takes it out of you. So I get it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love what I do. And I know you
same.
do,
Yes,
but it's just still like you need that recovery time. So,
yep, it's exhausting. I think people who don't do it may look at this. I'm positive some people look at it, probably the minority, look at that and go, "That's easy."
Right. You
sit there and talk all day, and it's like, no, not easy.
If only.
Yeah.
So this week, I think I actually titled the stream. So it's funny, like I titled the stream, but we usually meander to different topics. But
no, are you sure?
Well, the podcast the title comes up as I'm editing it. I'll think of like, okay, this is what the title's going to be. So it's kind of after the fact. You know what it reminds me of?
What?
The difference between traditional data warehouses and data lake-based data warehousing, right? The primacy of the schema, which I think is a term I got from you.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe me. I don't know. But the whole idea of schema on read is
schema on read. That's it.
Yeah, that really changes stuff. Mm-hmm. It really impacts architecture. It has a lot of impact on things like, what I do with data integration, data engineering. It kind of shifts a lot of that around. And I'd say first, it's different. Second is it gives you a lot of flexibility, of course, that you just don't have if you've got to rely on a schema being fixed.
Right.
And, so there's that. And Mark Taylor has just put up a thing about a data cube data mart. Yep. There's there's a lot of shift in that when you're working with these schema on read technologies. And it's not just data lake. There's a lot of technology around before data lakes became popular where we had schema on read. So it's not new, but it is different.
Mark's an awesome guy. He's super smart.
Cool.
I've worked with him on some engagements, and I always say I keep wanting to have him on a live stream, but I always forget the schedule. So
we got to get him on.
Let me see, Mark. If you're interested, I can send you a link. You can join now. We're all working from home, so I guess some of us have the thing. So if you're interested, ping me on Teams, and I'll see about getting you a link, if you will. So
Frank lets me on all the time, So
what'd you say? Your beard?
I said, Frank, you let me on all the time, so
right.
I know you'll let other people on.
Well, Mark's an interesting guy. He has an interesting background and stuff like that. He's doctor of engineering, smart guy, nice guy. Done some number of MTC engagements with him. LinkedIn user says happy Friday. I wonder if that's Nina or somebody else.
That's Mark Tab.
Oh, that's Mark Tabadia.
Yeah.
Nice.
Happy Friday, my brother from another mother.
Mark's an awesome guy. We've had him on the show once, and I think I did a data point with him at least once, and I think you might have done one with him as well.
Yep.
I bumped into Mark in at an AI conference in New York where he was a finalist for some award and for being an AI Innovator of the Year or something like that.
I thought I saw he tweeted something recently about something similar.
He won another award. Mark Tabadia. He's humble, but he's kind of a big deal. He's the Ron Burgundy.
Dr. T, Mark says.
Dr. T. Nice. The other
actually, I think Mark Tabadia is also Dr. T.
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah. So both of you are. That's pretty awesome.
Two smart folks.
Maybe we need to do a show with both of them.
That would be awesome.
Frank and the Dr. T's. I like it. Frank plus T squared.
I like it. And you say you're not good at marketing. Yet you are.
Let's see. Mark Tab says it was the other one, social media influencer. Okay, that's
cool.
Both.
Cool.
Very cool. Very cool work. Yeah.
So I really like Restream. We use Restream. I have a Stream Deck. I have OBS.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But there is nothing. In terms of simplicity, you can't beat this.
Yeah.
Like you just fire up a web browser and you do it. Are there things that I would change, et cetera, et cetera? T squared.
T squared. There you go, Mark
it.
Tab. Frank, you mentioned to me recently because I was talking to you about doing some recording, and you mentioned just using OBS straight up for recording instead of for streaming. And I did pop it open. Of course, I hadn't opened it in months. So it sat there and spun on a huge update, probably 30 minutes.
Oh, your Stream Deck?
Yeah, but it did get updated, and I was back playing around with the Stream Deck a little bit, working with it. So I haven't done it yet, but I'm, I kept going back and forth between Restream in the web, right there in the web browser, and then using OBS. And I liked them both. They both had, some serious functionality there, but it just seemed one got ahead of the other. I landed where you did, and because of a kind of a break that was messing with the recording, not with the streaming, but I ended up installing Firefox because that seems to work better with Restream.
There's some weird bugs that that the latest update of anything that's Chrome or Chromium based.
Nice, Mark.
Stream Deck. We should compare notes.
Yeah.
So here's another comment from the other Dr. T.
The other Dr.
Uh,
T, the 70s and
uh,
80s. Yeah.
That's true. Databases were the playgrounds of like academia, and I mean this was, I mean it was rocket science. I mean it was rocket surgery, if you will, back in the day. But I think that kind of dovetails nicely into kind of like, you know, today quantum physics and quantum computing is kind of rocket science today, but
Oh,
who
yeah.
knows? I mean, I always like to joke that the iPhone Q will come out in like 10 years. And you know it'll be quantum, and you know they'll ban it for you. They'll ban it in the casinos in Vegas because it'll have a better chance of beating and counting cards. I could totally see that being a thing.
Probably. Well,
So
what I'm
so
excited about, Frank's all the applications and the stuff that we do now, how
right.
quantum is going to impact that. We know it's going to, John says quantum in your pocket. That's awesome.
Right.
We know it's going to change things. And what we saw with databases,
Mhm.
what the first Dr. T is talking about, the first one who spoke, was talking about is back in those days of academia and stuff. Those were the first users of it. And then it became, I won't say ubiquitous, but it became more public, more useful in business and stuff. And it
Mm.
was, I thought the right term. It was always useful. It just became, it started getting
Affordable.
applied. Let's put it,
Right.
affordable is a good word too. Started being applied there. And I think that's what we're going to see with quantum computing. And this reminds me somewhat of when I started with computing back in the 70s, like 75. And I just happened to live next door to an engineer who built a home computer from a kit.
Nice.
That was one way you could do it. And I learned Motorola machine code and then basic. And you know, it's 1975. Nobody had a home computer, not in out in the middle of the woods between Blackstone and Amelia, Virginia. So, yeah, Mark Taylor says you'll talk on the phone and listen at the same time, like Schrodinger. Are you on the phone or not? Yeah, good point. Good point. I like any, and I always pronounce that Schrodinger when I read it, but I believe it's pronounced Schrodinger. I'm not sure.
Schrodinger in German.
Schrodinger.
Yeah,
Okay.
Schrodinger. Yeah, it's a
So
hard G.
Stevie Ray is, by the way, Stevie Ray's birthday Sunday. He is turning 18.
Oh my
Cannot
gosh.
believe that. Yeah, and he's been studying German and Arabic actually.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so
Both.
he's my German guy. You know, I go to you to speak German. You lived there for a while.
I
Frank.
lived there and I studied
Yeah.
Arabic for a while too. Fascinating
Oh,
language.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Long story. Long story. But check this out.
Oh, John asked this question. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Do your Schrodinger. Do your Schrodinger thing.
This is my Schrodinger joke.
Schrodinger
should have been nicer to my cat. Changed my mind.
That's
Sorry,
funny.
I had to get that out there.
That's
I had that
awesome.
on Instagram.
So John asked about Stevie and SQL Server and Raspberry Pi. He has done some with that, but not a lot. I'm trying to think of his current project. I know. So we built a greenhouse. It was kind of our pandemic project, and I had all sorts of high hopes to have tomatoes in January. That did not happen this January. I didn't specify the year in my defense, but yeah, that's a poor defense. But he did rig up. We built a kind of a hothouse in there where it's a big lab for me and Stevie.
Cool.
My wife, his mother, is driving them nuts. I was driving her nuts because she's like, just stop so we can grow stuff. So it's going to be great for extending the season. We'll have, we'll get to plant a good month, 6 weeks early. And that we're getting ready for that now. But we ran a hothouse experiment where we put one of our electric radiators out there on a really, actually it was a cold week. We had about a month ago, grabbed some data. He had a Raspberry Pi and an Arduino running, talking to each other. The Pi was to communicate with the wireless internet here. And and then the Arduino ran a really old set of weather instruments out there. But we captured data and we've got enough to correlate. I just haven't done it yet with my weather station that reads the outside temperature. So that's what we were doing. So FarmBot. I like it, Frank.
I've been wanting to get one of these until I see the price.
Yo.
But I don't know. Maybe one of these days. It seems pretty cool. There's actually a lot I think IoT can do for agriculture.
Oh,
Certainly on the
absolutely.
large scale, but also kind of on the small scale.
Yeah. Well, agricultural automation is fascinating. And I did some back in the day. So
Hmm.
in the 90s, I would program Alan Bradley's SLC 500 programmable logic controllers, PLCs. And one of the things that I did, a friend of mine owned a hatchery, and we used the PLC to monitor about 40 large incubators. And I want to say they held 10,000 eggs each.
Wow.
Yeah, they raised laying hens. And whenever a machine dropped below temperature, it would set off an alarm. We'd pick that up, and we had a display. It was a very analog display outside, just a bunch of lights. Each room had 10 machines, and there were 4 rooms. And also, but the cool part of it was we were able to put in a serial plug-in card and send a text to whoever had the pager. That was not a text,
Pager.
but we were able to
Wow.
page.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would tell them which machine, they were numbered. We tell them which machine had generated the alarm. And so they would know there was a large facility. They'd come up to an outside door and just go into the right door in the right room.
Nice.
Kind of cool.
Well,
Well, we're at 3
IoT
sets of
before there
elbows.
was a lot of eye. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, FarmBeats is a pretty cool product or program that Microsoft has. I'm actually going to present on that next month to a large educational institution there, not that far from you, actually.
I knew what you were talking about before you told me that. Before you said not far from
and we want to preserve our privacy, but if you're clever,
Sure.
you can kind of. It's like The Simpsons, when what they say is like, they don't tell you exactly what state Springfield is in, but if you're clever and you're paying attention to the clues,
that's it.
You can.
I'm trying to do that meme nod, Frank.
Yes.
Yeah, the meme.
Which
nod.
one?
Yeah,
Change my mind or the cat thinking he should stream?
I don't remember now.
Oh, that's the beauty of memes. They're like ephemeral, They're both eternal and ephemeral at the same time.
Oh, you're getting too deep on me, Frank. Those are in Farmville. We call those $3 words.
Oh, I call them 10. They're $10 up here in DC.
10. Wow. Goodness.
Yeah. I'm sure in San Francisco and New York, it's even more. But John Wood has raised a question. It's because I wish we could watch all these presentations you give. I will. We don't talk much about our secret project yet because it's still secret, but maybe this wish will manifest its way somehow, John. That's all I'm going to say. That's the only. Andy, if you want to drop another hint, you're welcome to. But maybe.
No, you never know, John.
You never know.
But we are continuing to make progress on what we've dubbed Project Ringgate, and if nothing else, it's a ton of fun.
It has.
Yeah, you got to get your stuff there, Frank.
Here we go. So I don't know if I ever showed you this.
Ooh, no, and I'm so jealous. I want one.
It's like $4 on a.
That's not bad.
Yeah, there was I saw an ad for like a larger replica made of metal and stuff like that. It was like $200 or $300. Like, yeah, no, I like the show, but when I saw this for like way less. So if you don't know what we're talking about, this is from The Expanse, the TV that was formerly on Sci-Fi. Amazon picked it up. It's from a series of books which are also awesome.
Oh, the books, yeah. The series and the books are both great.
Yeah. So Project Ringgate is a reference to the show.
Yes.
And everything kind of tied to the project. We've given kind of code names like the protomolecule, stuff like that. We're having a lot of fun with the project.
We are.
Ringgate.
We're just a couple goofy guys trying to put something out there. So we'll see. But presentations is a good thing. And I think Frank, if you watch Frank do live streams and stuff, he works a lot of presentations in. Frank's World, you can go there and search for it. You've got a YouTube channel where you send a lot of your. And what's nice about streaming to YouTube is it keeps it forever.
Right.
It never goes away.
And it's more discoverable than LinkedIn Live. One thing I have noticed, because we are very data driven here, is I don't have my little dum. I got to add that. Is that in terms of live views, my majority of my live views and interaction, and you could even see this in the chat if I pulled it up, but that is largely LinkedIn. Now, probably because I have close to 13,000 followers on LinkedIn, so I obviously have the bigger audience there. My YouTube channel is my greatest shame and failure because I have 350 subscribers, give or take, in the past 7 or 8 years. So, I mean, clearly the YouTube algorithm and me don't quite combine.
Well,
but
if you put some time on it, Frank, you could do it.
Exactly. If I put time into it, I mean, it's one of those things where, oh, well, thank you, John, that my channel is a diamond in the rough. I am working on things which I think will be related to Project Ringgate that hopefully will bring some more attention to the channel. I've actually rebranded my Twitter and my Instagram. My Instagram used to be my Twitter handle used to be Tableteer, which is a callback to the era of the tablet PC. And I've changed my my accounts on Instagram and that to be a little more consistent with branding, just cause it just seemed like the right thing to do. And no one is. Tablet PC is kind of an interesting thing. Yeah,
so Mark Tab. That's Mark Tab.
I probably should put more cat videos. I'll maybe have like a AI generated cat video. I actually have software that can do that. I actually have software that if you give it a still photo, it will kind of mesh and warp and make it sound like somebody's talking, or make it look like somebody's talking. I've used that before, but that's a good idea. Cat filter.
The cat filter. I like that.
I like that idea. That's a good idea. I'm taking down these great ideas here. This is awesome.
Yeah. Put a cat filter on the.
Just like the lawyer.
You're not a cat. Oh, now I get it. Okay. I saw that, and I am way disconnected from social media. That was
hilarious. The judge was like, he goes, I don't know what's happening. My assistant put this filter on. I don't know what's going on, but I can assure you, I'm not a cat. And the judge is like, yeah, I'm something to the effect of, yeah, very stoic and very professional. Kudos to the judge, because I would have been laughing hysterically. And he said something to the effect of, yes, I'm aware you're not a cat, sir. Something like that. It was just, well played, Mr. Judge.
There's been a number of very interesting, very interesting happenings like that over the past 12 months as people have kind of started using more and more, sharing and Zoom and Teams and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's been neat to see us kind of go through that phase as a culture.
Amidst all of this chaos, So this here, while we're talking about streaming, I pulled this out because Mark Tab was talking about this. So this here, it's HDMI video capture. It was about $20, $29, $25, depending on who you buy it from.
Yeah.
You can take the input from a camcorder or any HDMI source and then pipe it into your computer. So, which is also very useful for kind of streaming and stuff like that. Now, the big reason why I stream through this web interface is to get guests in easier. Because you and I, when we were working on doing data-driven, the original vision for data-driven was going to be video-based. We struggled with that. So I could probably figure it out, and I have a list of things I need to learn and do, like this long, but that's definitely on my list. But in terms of bringing somebody external, but Scott Hanselman has a great video out where he basically has created this professional-looking kind of presentation using PowerPoint and OBS, and then recording.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that. That was really cool, and it was very inspiring. Yep.
Yeah, somebody at the MTC, he delivered a remote engagement with that, and he says it went really well. So I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it sounds cool. So
Yeah, I'm inspired by him, and also Brent Ozar, who does live streams rarely now. He did a bunch at the end of last year,
Yeah.
and he's got great setups. He's got the big stream deck. I
Mhm.
saw we were looking at the video. You and I, Frank, were looking at the video for Adam Saxton and the guy in the cube setup he's got at his place. I imagine Patrick LeBlanc, the other guy in the cube, also has a similar setup. And these are just people who have invested time, and
Right.
quite frankly, Adam's invested a lot of money. He's got really good cameras. Brent has good cameras as well, and several of them. And it's neat to see what you can do with this. You put a little time and money into it. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's not as expensive as it used to be either. I mean, it's
true. It's coming down.
So I mean, to do a live stream, I mean, I have a ring light over there that was like $19. I got on Black Friday. And
nice.
it's so more accessible than it ever has been,
I'm using a Logitech Brio, kind of a mid-grade
how do you like that one?
webcam. I like it a lot. And Frank, there's very little light in this room right now. I mean, I don't know how to describe the lamp, but it's a lamp. It's got a little green shield on it. You've seen it, I know.
This is like the
I
banker's
call it
lamp.
an accounting lamp. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, a banker accounting lamp. That's the only light in this entire room right now, and it is shaded. I mean, and it's the Brio, it's picking it up. So there, I've lifted up the shade, but I leave the shade down because you can see the shadow behind me when I'm doing the, Andy in the corner.
Nobody puts Andy in the corner.
Yes, I put Andy in the corner all the time. That's where he belongs. He should have his nose touching the wall. But yeah, I do that, and you can just remove the color. I use Camtasia, but OBS will do it. I've done it with OBS, even live, and that's kind of fun to do that. And you've got the little talking head down on one side, and it's kind of cool. So
that is cool.
Brent, I was mentioning Brent. He did one a few months ago. I want to say it may have been back over the summer. He did Sequel Clippy. You have to search for that. Search for Brent Ozar on YouTube. Brent Ozar Sequel Clippy. It's very interesting. He and his wife, they made the costume that he wears, and it's green, so he can remove the green color. And it was a very interesting presentation that he did. Funny. Brent's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, you got to see this. Let me share this.
Okay. Yeah, there he is. So yeah, he did that, and he was sharing about some of the, well, you remember Clippy. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but yeah, Clippy in Office.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing here, the life of Clippy. That's funny. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know he did that. I always wanted to get a Clippy costume, just borrow it and shoot like a fake little commercial. No, this is what I had in mind. You remember the Never Say No to Pandas?
I don't remember.
This is a meme.
Sorry.
Here we go. This is what I wanted to recreate.
Oh.
Whoops, not full screen. There we go.
Oh, Mark Taylor says, or a little Einstein. That would be funny too.
That would be funny. So if you're not familiar with this meme, this is the commercial's in Arabic. I'm not sure where it was meant. It was either Lebanon or Egypt. But they basically say, do you want more of this cheese, this panda cheese? And the joke is like somebody would say, nah, no, thanks. And then this giant panda would show up and like freak out and like get violent. That's kind of the joke. So this is the one I wanted. This is the commercial I wanted to recreate kind of as a parody commercial.
Oh, it's got the right. I like it. The office setting.
Right.
The open space office setting.
And then look. They're like, uh-oh.
That's a good shot.
So imagine that with Clippy,
Yes,
you know.
that could go. That could do well, Frank.
So I was gonna, as part of the parody, because this is back when I was doing evangelism for Windows, like, hey, do you want to port this app to Windows? And then somebody would say no, and then Clippy would
No.
appear.
Oh, I like that.
That would have been the joke.
I got it.
But yeah. So so I actually titled the stream because I have a new fascination. And the fascination is PowerApps. So
Yeah.
you and I have been talking about this, but I thought it was worth sharing is that the I produce a lot of content, franksworld.com. Frank's World is at 101 posts for February. So that makes it 2 years and 2 months of where I've had more than oh, okay. It was from Egypt. I thought it was either Egypt or Lebanon. I don't know why I thought Lebanon, but
that was Mana.
It was Mana. Thank you, Mana.
Thanks, Mana.
But
Never
those
say
commercials
no
are
to
funny.
Clippy, right?
Those commercials were never say no to Clippy. Exactly. That was the plan. It was like never say no to Clippy. I could still make that commercial, but just
You can do it.
be like, hey, do you want to upload this stuff to Azure? No, we'll use AWS. And then Clippy would appear, and then that song. There's like a 50s kind of romantic song kind of plays in the background, and like that's what kind of juxtaposes. It's good cinematography because like you have this squishy little panda figure and this kind of soft, touchy-feely music. And then when the first time you see it, it's just so incongruent that you're like, what is going on? Brilliant advertising from the thing. But there's another one where the guy is at a supermarket with his kid and his son says, do you want me to get another 1 or 2 boxes? He goes, no, just one. And then the panda appears. And then the guy gets the second one in and they stare at each other. And then he puts a third one in and he's like, are you happy now? And then the panda walks away. It was just funny. The timing was just awesome. Yeah, I have to check it out.
Very cool.
Yeah, so funny. Mark mentions PowerAutomate. So I use a tool called Open Live Writer, which is a descendant of a early 2000s or mid 2000s program called Windows Live Writer, which is part of the Windows Live Toolkit. Because I hate the WordPress. I said it. I hate the WordPress blog editor. I think it stinks, and I've tried to use it. And I'm sure this is not a controversial thing. I think a lot of people think it stinks. They've modified it many times over the years. But so I tried to do it so where I can paste in a URL of a YouTube video, right, into RPA, into the Desktop Automate. And I actually have it kind of working. I introduced a bug, but there's no source control that I was able to find. So I couldn't go back to a previous version. So I ended up recreating the steps. So I have it like largely done. So you paste in the URL, you run the program, and it basically scrapes all the stuff from YouTube, which is another utility I had built, and then formats it correctly inside Windows Live Writer.
Nice.
So it does all the copy pasting and kind of that stuff. So I'm still working on that, but I'm actually thinking there might be a better way to do that because I also figured out there's another PowerFlow connector between WordPress and YouTube. So I might be able to kind of write my own PowerApps connector. So, and I saw that comment. I'll get to that because it's true. It's a funny story. Let me see if I can pull up Windows Live Writer.
Well, it's open source, right?
It is open source now. It's now called Open Live Writer. Yeah. So the IT archaeologist. So I have a number of tools that I. This is true. It's truer than you know, Mark. Let me see if I can share.
But the thing about archaeology in the context of IT is like you could say things like circa September.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
It's not that old.
So I think they had the best of intentions when they open sourced this, but for one reason or the other, people, the code has not really been updated. I think there's been a couple of updates in the last few years. Not exactly a thriving open source product.
Yeah.
If you go here and you look for add plugins, it goes to a site that's dead, basically.
Oh.
And I don't think they've updated that. So this is a funny story, speaking of archaeology. So I have a plugin, so I can go here and I can, let me go to channel 9. I can, here we go. We'll honor Scout Hanselman. Right. So if I go to insert online video, you can't see this because it's not. So what I'm seeing on my screen now is a dialog box that basically says paste in URL. I click insert and watch what happens.
Now this is something you wrote, right?
This is something I wrote. So this is basically ASP.NET code that's on top of an ASP.NET Core library that goes and does this. So I have a website that I do this. So basically, once I watch a video and I like a video there, what I'll do is I'll kind of just insert that. I used to go to a browser, insert the URL, and it would do this, and I'd have to copy and paste it back and forth between WordPress. Doesn't sound like a lot of time, but if you do 100 plus blog posts a month, it adds up. So by doing this, by just saying insert online video, paste the URL, boom, that's it. And obviously there's some formatting stuff I want to do. So what I had RPA do, or the desktop automate, was basically send the keystrokes, because apparently this is all, I figured out all the keystrokes to do this. And then once this is done, it would send a control home to send it here, shift down one arrow, cut, up, paste. So that's basically what I got working.
Nice.
What I'd like to do is basically also mine kind of names, like do like sentiment entity analysis and with NLP, and kind of extract relevant phrases and things, and then drop that in as a tag, and then also kind of figure out what the topic would be. So then that way, boom, I can just publish it.
So you want to get this down to like one click.
Ideally, I might have to
everything
stick with 2, but yeah.
Darn it, Frank.
I mean, these are all, I mean, what's funny is like I had all these ideas. I mean, these ideas aren't new, but just, I mean, time is of the essence. It's like, there's a cost benefit analysis, right? For me to write this plugin, and this plugin gets into kind of the archaeology comment. Let me see if I have Visual Studio on this box. I do not have Visual Studio. So my streaming box. I probably should get Visual Studio. But the code to do this. So check this out. So I actually had to do searching online because the documentation site is gone. And so to write a plugin, the last time, so I remembered that I wrote a plugin in 2005, 2006 for this. So I did a search using Bingle, and I managed to find an article from Code Magazine from like 2007 where he talks about this. And I managed to go through the Wayback Machine to find a blog post I wrote on how I wrote my plugin.
But why, Frank, did you need the Wayback Machine to get you your own blog? Sorry.
No, it's we're saying, so people, if you do go to Frank's World and you'll see like it's been online since 1995, like, dude, you're only a blog post from like 2017. Reason for that is my friends at ClearDB, who were hosting my data on a free plan, free to me, and as free as Microsoft and Azure were concerned. But apparently I was on the pay plan and I got canceled or deleted. They deleted all the data from their systems and servers because of non-payment on a free service.
And no backups. It was gone.
No, they deleted all the backups, so they were thorough.
Oh,
so I think that's it. I mean, I was PO'd, right? Like, We're on
Frank was
LinkedIn,
not
so I'm going to
happy.
keep it.
That's why I brought it up so that Frank could
Mhm.
explain that whole to you. Because honest, I think every time we get a chance to ding them for being that dumb, we should take it. We should take that. So we didn't force the opportunity. It came up in conversation. It's not like
Yes.
we opened the show every time by saying, "Hey, ClearDB made this, really dumb
For a
mistake."
while, we did. For like a week or
We
two,
did,
we did
well,
because I
because
was still fuming mad.
it was upset. I was upset.
Well, I
It's
remember telling you. I remember telling you over text message or whatever, and
yeah,
you're like, "But it's in the cloud. It got to have backups." It's a cautionary
yeah,
tale. But there
yeah.
is a happy ending, though. There really is a happy ending to this because if you look, and I'll show you kind of how my process works, and people are still watching, so I'm assuming that there's interest in this.
Yeah.
Let me pull up Excel and share
So
Excel.
I think your screen says 2 are watching, but I'm looking at LinkedIn alone, and there's 4 here.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of bugs still left in
yeah, it's
in
fine.
this. Um,
We're not doing this for the eyeballs.
no,
We're in it for the tech.
we're in it for the tech. Hang on, I'm still having difficulty pulling up the
That's why I
OneDrive.
was ad-libbing here talking about it. I even did the fist thing.
I appreciate that.
Tech.
Let me
Trying to
see.
help.
I appreciate
We
that.
aims to please. Sometimes we aims low. Just letting you know.
But we do aim.
Do aim. Yes.
Do aim. Here we go.
I gotta pop over to YouTube and Twitch and see how you're doing. When you see me looking this way, I'm looking at the other monitor.
Let's see. Post data. This is what I'm looking for. So I was telling you this. I signed up for another tenant on Office 365, so I have my own personal kind of space where we can build out stuff. And
Yes.
I'm excited because I learned a ton. I set up a SharePoint site for the family to kind of have a shared calendar and stuff like that. And I'm gonna tell you, man, hell is frozen over for me to be excited about SharePoint. That's all I'll say.
That's hilarious.
All right, here we go. This is we are data driven naturally. So I track, fortunately I had this saved out, so I know how much data I lost when ClearDB nuked me. So franksworld.com has been around since 1995, but I actually turned it into a technology blog. Speaking of archaeology, Mark, in 2004, February 2004, when I fired up the .text blog engine, which became community server, which then became non-existent. But what I do is I track this, and basically I have an Excel formula to figure out, because I had originally just had a CSV, which is these two values. So what happened is I kind of keep myself honest with this little dashboard here. And, in other words, how many posts per day I need to be at to hit my target is generally around 5 posts per day, which gets me comfortably over 100. That's a goal I set. I have some other kind of metrics and stuff. I really kind of nerded out with this. There are errors in this because, well, time, right? The goal is
data.
There's just the data, right? So this here is before and after. So in 2017, and you all can do the math in your head. I started the blog in 2004, and in September of 2017, ClearDB nuked me. So that's 13 and a half years of blog posts gone in a flash. And I was mad, but then I kind of thought about it as kind of an opportunity to, I'm also at fault too. I should have had my own backups. I should not have relied so heavily on the cloud, the magic of the cloud, being able to
but
kind
who
of
thinks of that? Who thinks of that, Frank?
Well, fortunately I had read Taleb at this point, so I knew how to be anti-fragile. I was very fragile. I thought I was resilient, but I wasn't. So I have this metric here, which in over time has actually inspired me, is that this is the ratio of posts. Before is what I had from 2004 2017. After is everything I've created since September 2017. So in the span of less than 4 years, I've created almost as much content as I did in 13 years.
Nice.
So for one, I like having this metric because part of it was I wanted to bounce back because I needed to bounce back, and two, it was a way to spite them. Because in my back and forth with their people, they told me that the site was dead, that it was an unused site, which is totally not true. But I also use this as an opportunity to like, okay, I really want to amp up the amount of content I create. How do I do that?
Right.
And that kind of allowed me into this coding where I can kind of semi-automate stuff, kind of do the data mining or whatnot. And you'll see what the average post per month before versus after. So I guess that's not really big enough. So let me zoom in. So before, over 162 months, I had that many posts. And in this many months, I think I'm at 40 months now. I really need to make this so it's more automated. Maybe I'll use Synapse or something. But you'll see that I've been averaging closer to 100 posts per month, up from 34. So this is kind of my inspirational to myself bounce back story, right? And in about 15 months, I'll hit the 50-50 mark at current speed, which I don't know. I'm proud of that.
I am. I think it's astounding, man. Yeah,
it's not much, but I do what I can.
You kicked it up.
You know, and this is kind of my chart over time. What I really need to do is migrate this to Power BI, kind of make it more automatic. Because right now, what I do is I enter the date and stuff like that. So that's on my list of things to do. But what's funny is that on one of the podcasters kind of groups I'm on Facebook, this one lady was writing a book, and she actually she spent 10 months writing the book, and she lost it through some kind of hard drive glitch or whatever. And she posted on that how she was devastated. And I shared my story with ClarityB. We recorded a show right after it happened. And I actually inspired her. I meant it to console her, to like, it's not the end of the world. You can bounce back from this. But she took it and she rewrote the book in 3 months.
Wow. Good for her.
Published it. So and it was ended up. So sometimes you just have to inspire yourself, because you never know who else you're going to inspire.
Was she a guest on our show?
She was not.
Okay. I was thinking of someone working on a book in there that was a guest on our show.
No. I
didn't remember that
space at all.
Okay, cool.
Yes. John, you know exactly how it goes. This list grows of stuff you want to do. But I will say that Power Platform has helped me tackle this list somewhat. So you do the show, the Data Minute, and you were like, one day you were kind of low on stories, and then you were like, well, when I ran DC Tech Minute, how did I source it?
Right.
And I basically did it by searching Twitter hashtags, that hashtag DC Tech. And that got me thinking, like, could I create a Power App that basically would scrape or just monitor Twitter so I set up a sample thing for hashtag quantum computing, right?
Yeah.
And overnight, I forgot about it. I check it the next day, 150 tweets it found.
Nice.
And I don't have to look at Twitter, which fine by me. No, just kidding. Twitter can be very distracting, I'll put it that way. And so then I found there's another connector to YouTube. So I have it mining that too. So what I really like to do is so the next step, instead of dropping it into an Excel file, I want to drop it into a Power Platform Dataverse model, where then I can mine from kind of, my ultimate goal would be that I'd fire up a Power App on my phone. And because sometimes when there's stories you don't want to share, or they've been repeated. So you can just say, don't want it, I swipe right or left on it, right? The kids will get that reference, right? Um, but and then if I approve it, then it goes to a short queue that later on when I'm in front of a computer, I can then kind of watch it and then post it or something like that. Have kind of a more of a workflow. And on my whiteboard over there, I kind of have a sketch out of what I want to build, because I want to be able to maintain the 100+ blog posts per month, as well as get Project Ringgate kind of going and awesome as well.
Yeah, and there's some overlap in the functionality.
Totally
I
overlap.
I could totally see that. And I don't know. I doubt we'd be able to. Well, I don't know, Frank. I mean, you and I have talked about some other ideas that I'm not ready to make public at this time, but machine learning AI type stuff,
right?
That would be applied to. In what I was thinking about was some auto generating of code. And that's what I was thinking about. And you and I actually submitted a pre-con that if we'd have been chosen, it was to a major data conference. If we'd have been chosen for that, we would have built it, but we didn't. We never built it because
it's a major data conference that no longer exists.
No longer exists. Well, actually,
how's that for dropping a hint?
Somebody picked him up. So I'll give Redgate props for that, and they say they're going to do the past summit. They're going to do it. They're going to bring it back, keep it going. So we'll see.
The past summit was a great event. I mean, I never went to one. I kind of followed your adventures in it. It's the organization that went broke, not the event.
It was definitely it was a cool event, and there were of course SQL Saturdays that are also they got picked up by Redgate as well. Thank you, Redgate, for doing that. There's any number of opinions in this SQL Server community about, about both the organization stopping and then also about Redgate picking it up. So, I think it's good. That's what I think. I think it's a good thing that they did, and kudos to Redgate Software for doing that. We'll see how it works out. Definitely going to be some changes, but this community, I don't if Frank knows this, because even before Frank got into data from a machine learning and AI and data science perspective, he was engaged in the data community, and he knew how things were going. In fact, Frank and I restarted the Richmond SQL Server Users Group in 2006. But the way you should hear that is Frank restarted the group, and I kind of tagged along with him to help out where I could. He did the majority of the work. So, and that group is still going strong. They're still meeting, and I presented there a couple months ago, actually.
That's cool.
It's a group. Yeah.
I remember the guy who originally started that ended it. Mm-hmm. When I asked him for his help, and I think you were on the email thread too. Instead of just saying no thanks, he wrote this whole screed on why community will never work in Richmond ever.
Yeah. So,
which clearly he was proven wrong, but
well, that was before we did the code camps. We did
right.
What, 10 or 12 in 5 or 6 years. We were doing them every 6 months or so.
Yep.
Great team doing those, and and there's SQL Saturdays in Richmond. There's been a number of those. And
I've
just
spoken
great
at one of those, I think.
Organization.
You've spoken at almost all of them.
I think almost all. But it's just great to see what this community does. So, it's being able to have a community that speaks about data automation, and then adding automation to kind of the front end of that for you and I to do some stuff, whether it's stuff you and I do or just others. There's a number of people out there doing curation, for instance,
right?
And they've been doing it the hard way, because we didn't have PowerApps back in the day when a lot of these curated sites started, and so they had to carve their own out of wood.
Wood and stone.
That's it.
Very primal.
Thank goodness they did. Though. Yeah.
But so no, I mean, so I have a lot of ideas. You and I were bouncing ideas about Project Ringgate and kind of how to create content. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever be fully automated or should it ever be
I
fully
doubt it.
automated. But
Yeah.
I mean, if it takes you, this was a problem I had when I created DC Tech Minute, right? This was, if you roll back the clock to, I guess it would have been 2014. I had Frank's World TV for a year on YouTube. My then manager chastised me for spending time on it because I thought it was part of an evangelism play.
That's crazy.
We'll leave the judgment there. But he basically told me I should find kind of a student, like a high school student or a college student, to do it. And I was like, to do what? And he goes, other videography and the editing. I'm just like, you realize we live in DC, right? Like, we live in DC. We don't live in New York or LA, where there's a broke, desperate film school student on every corner, right?
Right.
Like, this is not something that typically you find. One, the ethics of asking somebody to do something for free, let's leave that aside. But two, just the practical aspect of, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You're not going to find, right? I mean,
yeah.
And he didn't like that, and he ends up yelling at me in the Phoenix airport. Like, it was a surreal time. It was just very surreal. So that inspired me to come up with an idea for a show that I could produce daily or almost daily. But in order to do that, I had to crunch the time of the show down to kind of like a minute, like make it short.
Yeah.
And that's when I really got the notion of what really, with things like YouTube and streaming. Well, streaming wasn't really a thing back then, but the cost of creating content isn't really the cost. Like, it's not like I'm going to shoot like another Avengers movie and it's going to cost $500 million to make it. The cost is time.
Right.
So that really got me in a mindset of how do I take kind of like the cost of time and reduce it. So I got really good at building. The first version of my automation tool started with there. So I would go, I would copy and paste a tweet. And if you ever done that, the formatting makes a big mess. So I actually made an app that I would just paste in a bunch of the poorly formatted stuff. I'd save it to OneNote and then paste it into this thing, and it would strip all the formatting out and basically produce a little script for me to say, which was pretty cool. And I had the show notes.
Yeah.
And that's when I really realized, like, if you can automate as much of this as you reasonably can, then you could do a lot more. And that's, if you look at the graph I showed of the post on Frank's World, there's definite spike after that, because I realized that I could make that tool for other things. And PowerApps it's just really cool. Like, I was looking last night how to build my own connector. So maybe I can drop that in as a component, either in my own custom thing or somewhere else. So I'll be able to kind of push that stuff around. But again, this is all stuff I could do in code, but because it's not, and the hard stuff isn't the glue that stuff puts the stuff together. I can't talk anymore. It's kind of like the hard stuff is the hard stuff, and the stuff to glue it and connect it should be at a much lower level. I don't have to think about it.
Right. It's getting better. And you and I have been putting off for months now some time to walk through ADF. I know a little bit of ADF, Frank. You could just take that and run with it. And there's connectors in there for logic apps and functions and all sorts. You could just run with that. And I'd love to share just a little bit I know about it. So then watch you go, because then what happens? I'm being very selfish about this, Frank. Once you get to be a rock star on all of the stuff and how it works together and automated and stuff, I can say, well, I taught him ADF.
There you go.
One little piece.
Do you know how many meetings and like Teams chats I've been on inside Microsoft where I'm like, I know Andy Leonard.
You've told me this, and every time it makes me laugh because I'm like, really?
There was one time where somebody was like posting a whole bunch of your stuff in the tech, like, these are really great resources. And then somebody's like, and I wrote back. And I wrote back, he has a podcast too. And then in this chat, he's like, really? I was like, yeah, but the co-host is a bit of a jerk. And I put a winky face. And I don't think the guy got it, but other people got it.
That's funny.
Or maybe he agreed with me. Maybe I am a bit of a jerk. I don't know.
Well, you know my response to this. I got a couple that I'm sincere, and one's half joking, but the sincere one is that I'm amazed, and I give God all the glory. But the one that I joke about often is I'll say I've been trapped in here with me for 57 years, and I'm just not that impressed. I can tell you, just not. But it's funny. So, but it's it's good. It's not a bad thing, and I just try to live up to that. But what'll happen often is people get all enamored, right? And then I'll do or say something that I do. You watch me code when I do live streams. You can watch me code, and I know because people have emailed me and said you should have done this, and it's like 30 minutes in, I could have fixed whatever I worked on for an hour, and it's like, yeah, I missed that. So
Yeah.
I've been doing some more of that. But when we lost. A lot of people talk about. You mentioned a data minute, and I haven't done one in a week, and the reason is we just had first we lost power, and then I just kind of trying to dig out of that. We're just about back to normal. Although I'm gonna spend tonight and tomorrow cleaning up all the we have extension cords running all over for the generator. Got to clean all that up, and it's awesome.
What's helped. What stopped power outages in my part of Maryland? What? I got a whole house generator.
You fixed it. Yeah,
I fixed it.
That's my joke. I left everything out because we had another storm coming in 48 hours. And I told Christy we didn't lose power. And I says, because I left this mess, all these extension cords in your way.
I think I've used, I installed that thing. God, my oldest would have been a baby.
Wow.
Because when he was born during Snowmageddon, and then like a month later, we had the snowpocalypse. So I'm a new dad, and we had no power for like a week. I mean, it was bad, and like
that is bad.
And we were running out of firewood, and like here is this little baby. I'm like, oh my God, I'm failing as a father. And I was like, I don't care what I have to do. I'm getting a whole house generator. A couple of years later, so you would have been about 2. A couple of years later, we did get a whole house generator. And our neighborhood, knock on wood, has not had a sustained power outage.
Wow.
I think 15 minutes is the longest we went. And
it's handy,
It's handy. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Plus, I still have the solar generator I built for an IoT project. That is previous gig.
So Stevie was watching your video back in 2014, 2015. He was watching your YouTube video on that. And we were looking at it. We're like, we need to do that for some stuff in the greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great video. And I'm sure there's new tech out there.
There's new tech. If I had to do it all over again, I would get a golf cart battery.
Oh, that's a good thought. Because I was just about to say you used a marine battery.
Mm-hmm. A deep cycle marine battery, because those are meant to be fully depleted and then reloaded. Now, the catch with a golf cart battery is I'm not sure how cold tolerant they are.
Oh, yeah.
Marine batteries are designed to have better cold tolerance.
Okay.
But there's there's a number of YouTubers out there where I learned it from, right? One was called Tinfoil Hat Ranch.
Nice.
And you know what? He's got some crazy beliefs, but he can teach electricity. He can teach electricity like nobody's business. So I'm cool. I can separate the message from the messenger, right?
There you go.
That's a skill that is
isn't that dying? Isn't that dead now?
Almost. It's like the woolly mammoth or something like that. But there's another guy. I don't think it was him, but he lives somewhere very cold where it gets routinely below freezing for extended periods of time. He actually dug a hole for where his battery storage was.
Neat.
And then covered it with like a mixture of hay and like insulating material and then plywood. Okay. So, and he actually had a sensor in there that would tell him. So because of the natural insulation of the ground, et cetera, it never got much below 40 degrees, if at all. So he was able to kind of do that. So that might be something that you would, but deep cycle is what you want, because that apparently is electrical code for you can drain it all the way down and back up.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. I know, it's a chemical process in the batteries.
Yes.
And that would be, one of the impacts of it is if it's tolerant of being completely drained.
Right.
and then without hurting damaging the chemicals or the way they work when you charge them.
Anyone
So
who's had an
cool.
iPhone for more than like 3 years,
Well,
that's a problem.
it was that plus
Plus that secret
weren't they
update.
weren't they killing you? Yeah.
Yeah, they were killing you to preserve the customer experience.
That's it. So it's interesting you mentioned that because we do have a hole here beside the greenhouse.
Mhm.
One of the projects we did last fall was we replaced our septic tank. We live out here in the country, and when
I
we
have a
did
septic tank
that,
too.
oh, do you? Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know.
We don't.
Okay, are you on a well?
We're on a well as well. We're on a
Oh,
well
nice.
as well.
Okay. Ah,
Which as a city boy, that was absolutely terrifying when we were house hunting. But honestly,
yeah,
after about a month, you don't even notice it. And trust
yeah,
me, the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, who does the water and the sewage for
yeah.
suburban Maryland, I'm okay not drinking their water. I'm okay with that. I'll just put it out there. I'm okay with that.
So when we did that, we had the backhoe here, and we had the greenhouse underway. And one of the things we wanted to do was put in kind of we call it a cool pit, not quite like a storage a cellar, a cold cellar. We're kind of a cool cellar. So we had a guy dig us a hole with a backhoe, probably it's about 10 feet, maybe 12 feet deep. Now, we haven't done anything with it. We just put a temporary roof over
Right.
it. And of course, it's filled up and drained like, I don't know, a half a dozen times. So now it's about 6.5 feet deep. And it's probably a good 4 feet of silt in the bottom. So
There you go.
we're going to need to go in there and clean all that out before we actually do it. But we're still working focused on the greenhouse part itself. Then there's a shed out back. And it's actually, we had to dig the hole so we could build a door from the shed and just steps right down into the cool
Nice.
cellar. So that's what, so we have a hole is what I thought of when you were sharing about that guy who had dug the hole and done that. I doubt, because of how open our hole is and probably will be when we're done with it, it probably wouldn't help us as much as what he did. But you do, don't you do geothermal
Yeah,
cooling,
so we
right?
have that's how I got the generator actually, because
Yeah.
when you spend that much with a company, with an HVAC company, they're your best buds. So we basically threw it in at, I wouldn't say I almost got it for free, but at the time there was federal, state, and county tax credits
Gotcha.
if you got a geothermal system. So if you could wait a year for that to come to fruition, essentially the generator was almost free.
Nice.
Combined with the discount,
Very nice. Yes, I knew you got, and it is cooling, right? You did the cooling side geothermally. Is that correct?
We have geothermal does heating and cooling.
Nice. Okay. I didn't realize you had heating too.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's configured wrong.
Oh, okay.
But we have oil heat as our backup.
I got you. Okay.
So, I mean, if it gets cold, I like the cold weather. I mean, I'm a French Canadian stock, and
Right.
so and my wife likes it colder as well. I mean, right now it's 65 degrees in my office.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. And I don't know where I was going with this, but no, I'm not a big fan of the heat and humidity, right? So
yeah.
It does a really good job of, it doesn't really struggle like even in the worst of heat waves, and it doesn't use that much electricity because, I mean, for those who don't know, basically a geothermal system, geothermal is a lot of things. Like if you look at Iceland generates electricity from geothermal. That would be cool, but we're not above a geyser or anything like that, or any volcanic activity.
You need a volcano or volcanic on one side and a glacier on the other.
Right. I'm okay you could do not living on top of a volcano. Maybe that's just the kid from the Bronx in me, but
you're awful picky, Frank. I'm just saying.
I'm just picky like that. So no, what this does, they drilled a well, a series of 3 wells, 300 feet deep. And there's these, they have glycol in them, and there's these tubes. And basically what it does is a heat exchange against the ground.
Okay.
It does a heat exchange against the ground, like I don't know, like 300 feet down, which is always 45 to 56 degrees year round, no
Right.
matter what's happening on the surface. So the heat exchange then comes up and then goes through the system. It's actually right there on the other side of the monitor. So when you're doing heating or cooling, you're always doing it against 56 or 40 degrees. So even if it's 90 degrees outside or 100 degrees outside, 1,000,000,000% humidity, that's what it's not fighting, kind of like taking
Yeah.
90-degree air and to put it down. So that's where you get your real efficiency. So I'm happy with it. The waste energy that goes off also helps heat the water.
Okay.
So that helps too. But you know, we're kind of weird in the sense that we have an oil furnace and geothermal.
Yeah.
Very few techs are like have ever seen that. So anytime an HVAC guy comes to our house, it's like, what's this about? And it's like part of it was we already had an oil tank in the ground.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? And
Yeah.
you can hate on oil, but it heats fast and it heats quickly. And you know, for us, we like it cold, so it's not like we have the house at 80 degrees. So we just want to keep it.
Yeah.
We want that quick burst, and then that burst will last us for 6 hours, and then another quick burst, et cetera, et cetera. But
Well, I imagine there's a lot of people in Texas that would, that don't have that option right now.
Right.
I know that nobody saw this coming, but some of the stories that I heard about, there were. I read something, don't know how accurate it was, but it was projecting something like 2 million customers that were relying on wind,
right.
which normally is just not a problem, but when it gets iced up, turns the blades won't turn, and
Yeah.
they were doing things like pouring hot water on them to try and thaw them out. And man, my heart goes out. I pray for that situation to change quickly. But one of the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay. One of the stats that I read is that cold impacts people, and in fact, it's 7 times deadlier than excess heat, excess cold. And it's been very cold down there,
Yeah, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah. So I'm worried that there were people who suffered and perhaps died because of that. And you would think that heat would be more deadly, but it turns out statistically it's 7 times. It's cold is 7 times deadlier. I didn't know
Pete,
that.
you always hear about people dying of hypothermia, never hyperthermia. I mean,
True.
It happens, but
true.
I don't know. It's just there's things you can do in the cold. I mean, in the heat, you can't do. As long as you stay hydrated and limit your activity and exposure, you can make it. Whereas with cold, you have to be continuously moving and kind of being ready for that, and that's a lot harder to do, especially if you have existing medical problems. Cold will also freeze the pipes. I imagine there's going to be a lot of busy plumbers in the next weeks, coming weeks. And I mean, that's the thing with renewable energy. I'm a big fan of renewable energy.
Same here.
But it's not perfect. And like, it just amuses me to see certain people saying like, this is wonderful. It's like, yes, it is wonderful, but I mean, I love my solar thing. When the time is right, I love to get solar panels on my roof, but solar has its catches. And one of the catches is actually, ironically, solar panels tend to lose efficiency the hotter they get.
Interesting.
So when they're cold, they actually will do well. And there was another bunch of YouTubers. It wasn't a tinfoil hat guy, but basically it was kind of this crazy. I think it might have been King of Random or Crazy Russian Hacker, one of those guys.
Okay.
Where they had a solar cell and they were measuring the output of it. And what they would do is they would put mirrors to kind of throw more photons at the solar cell.
Sounds legit. That's your work.
Sounds legit. So after 3 mirrors, after 2 actually, well, you're never going to get 300% improvement because that pesky thermodynamics thing, which I'm sure our PhD is on the stream will know what that is. But After about 2, you didn't get really a big improvement.
Yeah.
And so then the guy, it was a cool video. I got to find it and share it.
Okay.
But he basically was like, well, what if I took a Fresnel lens? Take all of this sunlight, put it in there. Well, after about 10 seconds, the thing fried and cracked and boiled.
Oh,
he's like, crap. So then he got this idea where he would, don't try this at home, kids. I should have said that. Then he got this idea of like, well, what if I cooled it constantly? So then he figured out that if you put it in mineral oil, he would be able to. So that's when he just discovered that the hotter a solar panel gets, the worse it performs.
Gotcha.
So if you put it, so he was able to, not with the Fresnel lens as much, but with the multiple mirrors, he actually got about 250% kind of better throughput.
Wow.
Because he had it in mineral oil. And I remember telling this, because this would have been when I was building out my system, like in 2014. Yeah. I was working on K Street, and one of the guys there had just gotten solar to his house, and we were chatting about solar. He's a big, shall we say, proponent of solar. And I was telling him, he goes, he was saying like, well, when the fall comes, I don't expect to get. And I was like, I wonder because, as it gets colder, yeah, there's less days, there's less time in the sun, but if the panel itself is cooler, it may not be as a dramatic fall off as you think. And then he's looking at me. He said he was an engineer, but he didn't have, because I was telling him about the mineral oil thing. And he goes, well, I can't put mineral oil on my house. And I'm like, well, no kidding, Sherlock, but there might be other ways to cool. I don't know. Like, I think solar tech and battery tech are a long way to go in terms of that. But
well, they've come a long way. I mean, they're
they
so
have
much
come a
better
long
than
way.
they were. So it's interesting to see, and hopefully that'll continue.
Apple supposedly has some breakthrough that they're going to announce the next year or two on battery tech.
Nice.
I don't know much more than that, but
okay, very cool.
So we've been streaming for 1 hour and 22 minutes. I want to say thank you.
Gracious.
I have things to get into. It has been awesome. Maybe I'll make this into a show. I don't know. Put it on the podcast feed.
Cool. I know we've got some guests pinging us, potential guests pinging us.
We're working on that
scheduled, and we'll get those out. We had a couple of really good guests back to back. Peter Voss and Burkow. What was his first name? Burkow's first name. Was it Mark or Tim? I can't remember.
That's a shame.
But Mr. Burkow, it was an awesome show.
That was an awesome show. Because he's a smart
Peter
guy.
Voss was our last one.
Dan Burkow.
Yes. And that was an awesome show. I really enjoyed that conversation with him. And Peter Voss as well. So great data science-y topics on the show. Datadriven.tv. Go check us out.
Yep. Or you can say to your Alexa device, Alexa, play the Data Driven podcast. There's one over there. She's
Driven from Amazon Music. Resuming season 4, episode 6.
Alexa, pause.
Awesome, Frank.
All right. You have a great weekend, and maybe I'll stream tomorrow. Who knows? Andy, as always, great catching up with you. Mark.
Same.
John. Both Marks, right?
Both Marks.
Both Marks.
Both Dr. T's.
Both Dr. T's. Great catching up with you. Maina, thanks for stopping by, everyone. Thank you. Leave a like, leave a comment, share. That definitely helps us boost our standing in the LinkedIn algorithm as well as the YouTube algorithm, because I haven't totally given up on YouTube. So with that, I will end the show. Any words of wisdom for the end, Andy?
No, everybody have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Stay safe.